flood situation in Nigeria is our concern tonight. So join us as we deliberate on that in this edition of Weekend File. Have a good evening and welcome to the program. Massive flooding has been sweeping through many parts of Nigeria. The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency had some months ago advised state governments on evacuating residents in flood-prone areas, noting that heavy rains could lead to possible loss of lives and property. About 28 states, 275 local government areas would be affected. In fact, most of them are already inundated. In Yobe State, for instance, several houses and farmlands in seven council areas have been washed away, threatening harvest in the state. This cropping season, and of course, homes of many residents of Lagos State have continued to be flooded each time it rains. In Ibadan, flooding rendered many residents homeless and their property worth millions of naira destroyed. In Kaduna, many houses have been submerged, forcing many residents out of their homes. The story is the same in Edo, Delta, Anambra, Rivers, Bayelsa, and many other states across Nigeria. And so tonight we will examine the flood situation in the country. And our guest tonight on Weekend File is the Director, Research and Forecasting, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Kayode Fabomi, who will be joining us when it's time for us to have a conversation with him in the course of the program. My name is Kurian Umayo. Let's take the news first. To effectively contain the spread of the coronavirus disease across the globe, the deployment of the COVID-19 vaccine should be done in an equitable and affordable manner rather than on the basis of the highest bidder. This was the position of Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the virtual meeting 2020 Euro-Africa Forum themed towards a realistic Euro-African partnership during the and beyond the COVID-19 era. State House correspondent Jida Onifade has that report.
It's a sign of the times that this...
A global crisis calls for global partnerships, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says, and explaining that if COVID-19 exists in any part of the world, it remains a significant threat to every part of the world.
To this initiative,
as the Vice President observes, Europe should work closely with Africa to ensure that when a vaccine is finally deployed, it should be made available at an affordable and an accessible manner. Vice President Osinbajo also speaks about Nigeria's efforts in mitigating the impact of the COVID-19 on the economy, noting that Nigeria's priority is to ward off a deep recession, while welcoming the debt servicing support initiative of the G20, which he says will no doubt bring some relief to relevant African countries. The Vice President, however, observes that it remains inadequate because it does not address the problem of commercial debt service obligations, and therefore calls on the European Union to lend its weight to this initiative, which he describes as very important for Africa.
There are, of course, many other matters on which Africa and the EU must continue to collaborate, and to which we must use the opportunity of this summit to move ahead on. Investment and trade, human capital development, and the proper management of migration are areas in which our partnerships should continue to be built. I'm confident that we will continue to deepen such relationships, which must continue to be anchored on enabling both regions to attain their social and economic objectives in an increasingly environmentally friendly and digital world.
The Euro-African Forum aims to foster stronger collaboration between Europe and Africa and better promote a shared green and inclusive growth, among other objectives. In the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Omar Farouk has handed over 118 trucks of food commodities to Bauchi State government as COVID-19 palliative. Mahmoud Ibn Mohammed reports that the minister also commiserated with the government and people of Bauchi State on the recent flood incidents that affected 7 local government areas in the state.
continuation of the federal government's effort towards cushioning the effect of COVID-19 pandemic on Nigerian, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Sadia Umar Farouk, handed over tons of maize, millet, and sorghum for distribution to the vulnerable in Bauchi State.
We all know that the outbreak of the pandemic has brought about changes and challenges to our normal ways of living. Most obvious of these is on the vulnerable persons that depend largely on others for their daily survival, and other persons of concern that deserve support in terms of basic needs.
Thank Mr. President, the President of the Republic, President Muhammad Buhari, for finding it fit and worthy to give this kind of palliation to most states or to all the states all over the Federation.
On the recent flood disaster that affected some local government areas in the state, the minister directed the National Emergency Management Agency to take stock of the damages caused by the flood. In Bauchi, Mahmoud Ibn Muhammad, NTA News.
Commercial flight operations have resumed at the international wing of the Muritala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, after 5 months of closure due to COVID-19 lockdown. Michael Laleye reports that both inbound and outbound passengers were subjected to rigorous COVID-19 checks.
The first commercial flight in more than 5 months arriving from the Middle East. It is a landmark achievement in the fight against COVID-19, but beyond the glamour is the reality that the pandemic has changed the mode of screening at the airports. The drop zone now accommodates less outing, while a makeshift structure has been erected at the entrance to take care of hand washing, temperature checks, luggage disinfection, and physical distancing. The process, which is in stages, gives assurance of safety to passengers while the fight against the virus continues.
The great job they do, the social distance, the mark on ground, the spraying for bags, the temperature checking, all the effort they do is a great effort. Even you cannot see it in all over the world.
I'm happy that everything's coming back to normal, and I feel like everyone should always take precaution, always wear a mask, always prevent, always use social distancing, prevent contact with others as much as possible, and then life will become normal.
Agencies at the airport are strengthening surveillance in spite of the remarkable measures put in place.
For a start, I think we'll be having about 1,280 passengers daily. And with what we have at MMA, we can conveniently accommodate them. We have 2 fingers, we have this one and the other one. So even if you have 2 flights at the same time, you can conveniently park one on the Echo and the other one at Delta.
The control starts from the disembarkation of the aircraft. We make sure that passengers does not come out in rush. They come out in quantum and observe the signages that is on ground, which we must have seen.
Only 2 airlines operated from the international wing of the airport, a figure which will increase to 7 by Monday next week.
In Lagos, Michael Walale, NTA News.
The rehabilitated portion of Rigachikun Bridge along Kaduna Zaria Highway has again caved in, leaving commuters stranded Friday night. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that excavation work has begun on the damaged portion.
Couple of hours after the reopening of the Rigachikun Bridge, upon completion of remedial work, there was heavy rainfall yesterday, and that transition base once again caved in. Contractors are pointing to another hole that is on the other bridge, which is the alternative bridge that is being used by traffic right now, that is responsible for allowing water to flow into it and to the other transition base, which caved. Yesterday, thousands of commuters were stranded here as a result of impatience. I've spoken to the traffic managers. They told me that they've been able to diffuse that traffic at about 1 a.m.
There is a diversion, a detour, so that other people will be diverted to follow the other lane. And as you can see, we are still on it. And our men worked at this assiduously yesterday so that they can see that all other traffics follow the other direction.
With our ears on ground, we got the wind of a traffic standstill at Kao, Kaduna, which is a major confluence of vehicles from across the country. So we hit the road on a bike. Majority of those caught in the traffic mess were the articulated vehicles. The bone of contention was that a personnel of the Kaduna State Traffic Management Agency was alleged to have physically molested a truck driver. In protest, they did what they know best, blocking the road with their trucks. And the consequences were colossal. After hours of persuasion, they heeded. But commuters are not happy with their mode of protest.
I don't think they should go to that length. I think they should be humane. As much as they think about themselves, they should think about the other members of the society. I didn't know. I just came in and look at what I went through. I spent almost about 2 hours now before I get down to NTA. I had to trek on foot.
This is not the first time the truck drivers have protested in this manner, and observers say the authorities must act fast to put an end to this form of protest, which puts thousands in a difficult situation. In Kaduna, Abdullahi Muhammad, NTA News.
The newly appointed chief executive officers for some agencies under the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture have been charged to come on board with positive ideas that will scale up efforts being made to build the nation's economy for a sustainable growth. Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed gave the charge while addressing the new CEOs. Anthony Forson reports.
The chief executives, 9 in number, has 2 females, charging them to assimilate President Muhammadu Buhari's priority areas, which is guiding the administration. The Information and Culture Minister said focus is on building a thriving and sustainable economy, enhance social inclusion to reduce poverty, as well as enlarge agricultural output for food security and export, among others. Of particular relevance to the various agencies as it relates to culture and tourism, Lai Mohammed said the ministry has commenced work on areas that will position the sector through its ongoing reforms, just as it prepares to lift the creative industry from the COVID-19 impact.
The implementation committee will set up to look at the well-prepared Alibaba committee report on the creative industry, which was triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic, is currently working to provide guidelines for lifting the industry in the post-COVID era.
The federal government, he said, is doing so much with little resources. Therefore, their efforts must be channeled towards promoting diversification of the economy.
Yes, we are diversifying the economy to reduce the dependence on oil. But the situation today has been worsened by the COVID-19, which has stifled economies around the world. Yet, due to the deft management of resources, this administration is engaged in massive infrastructural renewal, whether in the areas of roads, bridges, rail or power.
The minister reminded them to keep up with the hard work that brought them this far for a call to national duty. Responding on behalf of his colleagues, Professor Sunday Ododo of the National Theatre expressed gratitude for the confidence reposed in them by President Muhammadu Buhari.
The letter testifies that this time we have chosen so well, because we have square pegs in square holes. The expectation is so high, and we cannot afford to fail you, sir.
Their appointments took effect from the 1st of September. In Abuja, Anthony Forson, NTA News.
The Director General National Council for Arts and Culture, Olusegun Ronsewe, has called on key players in the culture and tourism sector to work towards delivery of a solid destination in Nigeria. The DG made the call while inaugurating the Creative Industry Post-COVID-19 Initiative Implementation Subcommittees in Abuja. Oinia Kaloka reports that the committees are made up of 13 sub-units.
At the virtual inauguration, the Director General National Council for Arts and Culture, Olusegun Roshewe, called on members of the committee to look at the impacts of the pandemic to the industry and proffer solutions on how to move the sector forward.
Whatever government wants to do, we have involved every sector player. All these people have suffered a major setback during COVID-19. How best can we help them? This help could come from government but never get to them. But this time, under my leadership, we will get to the right people.
To articulate the challenges, a document by the council was presented to the members of the committee. Members of the committee, drawn from the hospitality and tourism subsector, creative arts and media, are expected to submit their reports in the next 7 weeks. Oyina Kalu Oka, NTA News.
Ekiti state government is set to create more wealth for its people and Nigerians through the attainment of a special economic zone that is knowledge-based and ICT-driven. Governor Kayode Fayemi said this when he visited management of Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority here in Abuja.
The Ekiti state economy is driven by agriculture and knowledge. The fountain of knowledge is about to give birth to something new. It is Nigeria's first service-based economic zone driven by the digital economy.
Why can't Ekiti be the seat of medical tourism in this drive for knowledge economy?
The visit is to advance discussions on the actualization of jobs for the future.
That's what's driving what we're doing in agri-tech, in biotechnology, in information technology, in business outsourcing.
With the belief that a functional industrialized economy will ensure growth and wealth creation, Managing Director of NEBSA, Adesoji Adesuba, says for this to happen, incentives and the right structures must be in place.
Knowledge, like the governor said, is a very huge sector that we have hardly tapped anything from it. Just from technology alone, skills acquisition, and just from coding.
The knowledge zone is anchored around talent produced by universities in Ekiti and neighboring states. A planned mini city equipped with reliable infrastructure to include power and broadband for attracting services like business process outsourcing, data labeling, software development and engineering, in addition to startups focused on critical sectors of healthcare, education, agriculture and consumer markets. Benny Adams, NTA News.
The All Progressives Congress APC has flagged off its governorship campaign for the October 10 election in Akure. At the rally attended by a number of APC governors, the party's governorship candidate and incumbent governor of the state, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu, while receiving the party's flag, said the mission is to consolidate on the positive transformation of the state. Abiola Ario reports.
It was a gathering that brought together political bigwigs in the party from across the country who came to affirm their support for the re-election bid of the incumbent governor, Oluwarotimi Akeredolu. Presenting the party's flag to the candidates, the chairman, APC Caretaker Committee, who is also the governor of Yobe State, urged the people of the state to make the right choice by re-electing Akeredolu, saying his achievements are testimonies of his good works.
APC in Ondo State is united, is stronger, and we have the cohesion and the support to win this election peacefully.
If you are looking for evidence of commitment to an ideology of progressive governance, you need not go any further than what is already showing itself here in Ondo State. I want to say to you that Ondo State is receiving governance. Ondo State is receiving a progressive man.
Governor Akeredolu said he is determined to transform the state to an enviable height if given the opportunity. The national leader of the party, Bola Tinubu, was also in Akure, where he met with traditional rulers from across the state who came to reaffirm their support for the re-election aspiration of Governor Akeredolu in Akure. Abiola Rio, NTA News.
And more of politics, the All Progressive Congress APC is intensifying its campaign drive in wards in Edo Central to ensure it covers everywhere in the area before the election on the 19th of this month. Agatha Eguare has details of the campaign so far in the senatorial district.
The team has been campaigning in Edo Central since 3 days, visiting wards in the local government areas under the zone. In Ewoimi, the people welcomed them with a special rendition. Wards 4 to 7 Emu, 8 to 9 Ilushi in Eastern Southeast, and wards 8 to 10 Ekpon in Igweben also had the opportunity to meet with the campaign train. The candidate also met with the people of wards 7 and 8 Ewu and Ujabole Ward 2. At Ibore wards 1 to 4, Pastor Isayamu promises to make Eastern Central an investment hub.
Once I come in by our power, there will flower me, they make my work. Because in that place they work, many places they come here. Other people go benefit well.
Assurances of greater Edo under APC also came from the former national chairman of the APC.
If every governor come and do a little more, another governor come and do a little more, that is how society grow from strength to strength.
The candidate paid homage to the Onoji of Ewu, Abdurazaki Ojefo, and Zaiki of Ekpon, George Edobo, at the palace of the Omonoji of Ewoimi Kingdom, Peter Usifo. From Edo Central, Agatha Eguareojo, NTA News.
As of June 2020, the capital adequate ratio of Zenith Bank stood at 20%, which is above the 15% regulatory limit. This is reflected in its financial performance statement that assessed the first 6 months of 2020, the year under review. Amaka Owo has more on that.
Figures from Zenith Bank PLC shows a 17% increase in the profit after tax from 88 billion naira within the first 6 months period ended in 2019 to 103.8 billion naira of same period in the year 2020. The bank's gross earnings grew from 332 billion naira to 346 billion naira, driven by 6% growth year on year. The non-interest income data shows that the first 6 months in the year 2020 on the review had 116 billion naira, a significant increase from the previous year. Earning per share increased by 17% to 3 naira 30 kobo in the first half of 2020. Total deposits as at June 30th, 2020 grew by 15%, put at 4.9 trillion naira as against 4.26 trillion naira recorded in December 2019. In the bank's deposit by business segment, small and medium enterprises account for 41%, retail had 32%, while public and corporate banking accounts for 11% and 16%. With this performance, the management is optimistic that Zenith Bank is well positioned to take advantage of new opportunities to grow the loan book and weather any shock in the economic environment. Established in 1990, Zenith Bank has 390 branches across Nigeria and 45 branches across Africa and the globe, with a staff strength of over 6,527 people. In Lagos, Amaka O, NTA News.
And to ensure strict compliance with the laid-down procedure for the establishment of private universities, the National Universities Commission has undertaken a fact-finding visit to Kano State to verify proposed degree programs preparatory to formal accreditation of some private universities located in that state. Mohamed Rabiu Ali has that report.
Estimated 2 million prospective candidates sitting for Joint Admission and Matriculation Examination Board seeking placement into 177 public universities for degree programs. However, only few succeed due to low capacity of public universities to accommodate more. Therefore, the establishment of private universities in the country is to complement federal and state governments' desire to provide quality tertiary education in view of the limited admission space in public universities. The team visitation panel from the National Universities Commission to some proposed private universities is to ensure strict compliance with extant rule for the establishment of tertiary institutions.
We conduct 2 visits, first and second. So we are here to look at the facilities the proposed Madam Abacha American University has. On a general note, we are satisfied with what we have seen. We have seen a lot of effort in trying to meet our guidelines.
We are still struggling to find space for university education for less than 1% of our population.
Point at us some of the areas that we need to improve, and we are happy that we are okay with all their observations, and we are ready to implement the corrections.
The emergence of private universities in Kano will no doubt change the landscape of education, as those who cannot gain admission into the public universities can comfortably pursue their degree programs in such universities. Muhammad Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
Abia State Governor Okezie Bazu has assured the management of NTA Aba of his administration's support in fixing dilapidated sections of the station. The governor made the promise during an assessment visit to NTA Aba. Benson Osadebe reports.
Governor Ibazu undertook a guided tour of the station's facilities, which include the studios, editing suites, general manager's office. Others are Coppers Lodge and collapsed perimeter fence. Moved by the level of dilapidation, the governor promised to fix some of the problems within the coming week, noting that NTA Aba plays a critical role in informing, educating and entertaining the masses and must not be allowed to go down.
The service you render, especially at a time like this when we need the grassroots to understand the battle against COVID and to disseminate information to the rural areas. Nobody can beat the reach of NTA in Abia and in Nigeria. And if we allow NTA to die, then our major markets will be in jeopardy.
We say thank you once again for finding time to come. We will keep partnering with the administration to inform the people of activities of government which you lead.
With the bond between the state government and NTA Aba management, the station is expected to receive a facelift soon. In Aba, Benson Osadebe, NTA News.
Yeah, thank you, Benson. President Muhammadu Buhari salutes Mr. Femi Onayemi, a man who has put over 50 years into active journalism practice, as he turns 80 September 6, 2020. The president salutes the commitment of Pa Onayemi to a profession he loved dearly, serving variously as a reporter, editor, now editorial consultant, in a journey of over 5 decades that saw him through publications like Daily Times, Daily Sketch, The Punch, National Concord, The Mail, and many others. At the princely age of 80, the president wishes the veteran journalist happy celebration and longer life in good health and all-round prosperity. You're watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA, and they will examine the flood situation in Nigeria. And our guest tonight is the Director, Research and Forecasting, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Kayode Fabomi. He will be joining me at the conversation segment very shortly after the break.
What's wrong with you? You just crashed my car with your pangolo. I said, who scratched who? You scratched me. I did not scratch.
What's wrong with this old man with it that crash? Uncle, please, I beg, give me your phone.
And I'm calling the head of police. Who is the head of police? The director of the DSS is my cousin's husband. The head of service is my sister's fiance.
Uncles, please, why the scratch is super dangerous? Please, can we go? Can we go?
Now, that's it first.
Find your first with the best data plans in town. Dial *777#. Glow Unlimited.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, invites all ministers, head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Federal Permanent Secretary and top government functionaries to a 2-day performance review retreat to be presided over by His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, scheduled to hold as follows. Date Monday 7th and Tuesday 8th September 2020. Time 9 a.m. daily. Venue, State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Objectives of the retreat include create transparency on the status of implementation of policies, programs, and projects of government and provide roadmap towards the delivery of government's 9-priority agenda during the first year of the administration. Provide opportunity to deepen the understanding of ministers and other participants on the best practices towards ensuring effective delivery on government's business over the coming years. Registration for the retreat will take place on Sunday, September 6th, 2020 at 4 p.m. and also on Monday, September 7th, 2020 at 8 a.m. at the State House Conference Center, Presidential Villa, Abuja. Attendance at the event is mandatory for those invited. Please. Announcer Babatunde Lawal, Permanent Secretary, Cabinet Affairs Office, Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation.
At Elizade Autoland, we don't just sell quality, we build quality. JAC Motors, assembled in Nigeria by Elizade Autoland. For fleets of JAC Motor brands by members of the public and private sectors. JAC Motors are clearly built with one purpose in mind. They are built to serve. Elizade Autoland, sole distributor of JAC Motors in Nigeria.
NTA News 24, a 24-hour news station, brings to you news and happenings 7 days a week.
News at 10 a.m., news update at 11 and 1 p.m.
News desk at 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. and late evening news at 11 p.m.
Follow us on any of our platforms and keep abreast of events and current affairs within and outside our shores.
We are on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46,
Star Times channel 101 and Free TV channel 703.
Join us.
You're welcome back, and joining me now in the studio is the Director of Research and Focus on National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, Kayode Fabumi. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency had warned that the flood noticed in Niamey is likely to enter Nigeria in a few days. Are you aware of that? And if you do, what are the plans to get towards mitigating the effects of that flood if it eventually gets into Nigerian territory?
Thank you very much. You know, they have predicted flooding at the beginning of the year, and we're having flooding coming from outside the country. Niamey received so much rainfall, and it got flooded. Of course, it will empty the water to Nigeria. Already, some of the flood has gotten to Nigeria. That's why we have flood in Kebbi State. Yes, because the two dams there, Bakolori Dam and the Goroyo Dam, you know, one on the river Rima, they have opened the dam to let some water go. That's why Kebbi is flooded. You know, we have one, and we know we were in Kebbi on Thursday. We just came back today to assess what has happened. Actually, we know that what causes flood, you know, maybe as a result of so many factors, especially it's not only precipitation. We've been complaining especially in the Sudan and the rainforest in the southwest, for instance. People have been complaining they don't have enough rainfall, and yet we're having flood in the Sahel. Why? Because of climate change. We will never think that Niger Republic will receive such amount of water, but they receive so much water, and it's emptying to Nigeria. We have gotten tremendous support from the Nigerian Air Force because, you know, of the lockdown. The airport in Kebbi has not been open, but the Air Force released for us 2 aircraft, one to take the staff there, 2, another special aircraft to do a reconnaissance survey over River Niger. So from Kebbi, they flew from Kebbi to Lokoja, to some part of Kogi State in Ida, and then went back and to survey all the areas that are likely to be affected. So we have taken photographs of it, and we are doing analysis, and we are still warning the people and ensuring that people that are likely to be affected are evacuated.
Okay, now how prepared are the state emergency management agencies towards managing the situation? Because of course, you are on the national side. Are you collaborating in any way? Is there any synergy between you and them? But of late, now we hear that there are flood alerts taking place in localities. You know, while some persons or some families would like to relocate, others insist on not to relocating, you know, because they are feared that their property might be stolen. So how has it been between you and the state emergency management agencies across Nigeria?
Yes, thank you very much. This year, we have gotten serious cooperation with the state emergency management agencies. When the information got to us from NIMET and NISA, what we did was to write letters to all the state governments and send them this document we prepared. We call it disaster risk management implication of 2020. We send this to all the governors of the federation, and ensure that the letters were delivered. Not only that, the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development move from state to state in order to do advocacy. He has gone to so many states, and they are aware, and so we have gone, our zonal offices and operational offices have gone to all the states of the Federation to carry out awareness campaign with SEMAs. We have gotten a lot of cooperation with SEMA this year. Just coming from Kebbi, you know, Bleeding Kebbi, the SEMA there, they have the people that were displayed, they have put them in a camp in a primary school. They have supplied some food items. So we are just going to support them. We have gotten tremendous support with SEMA this year.
All right. Now, Kebbi State of late was on the news for the flood disaster that damaged homes and farmlands. Nora Tanko Wakili takes a look at the control measures, responsibilities of farmers, and the alertness to areas experiencing flood in the state. Let's take this report. We'll come back to you very shortly.
Thank you.
The state is one of the frontline states affected by a flood, with an average of 13 out of the 21 local government areas affected annually. Between 2016 and 2019, over 221,000 households were affected by a flood, while 278,844 farmlands were submerged by flood water. This is in addition to other damages recorded on critical infrastructure, such as roads, schools, and other public utilities. To mitigate this, the State Emergency Management Agency has continued to engage relevant stakeholders on response preparedness and awareness creation along the riverine communities, while over 100 communities have been relocated to upperlands.
If we cannot contain what's happening now, what more of if this country and Japan are also often off, how are we going to do? Which way are we going to safeguard life and property of our people?
For this year, 11 local government areas in Kebbi State were predicted to experience flood by relevant agencies, and stakeholders have been briefed on the threat and their expected roles in containing it. And already some communities and farmlands have been submerged, with victims evacuated to nearby public buildings, while others are already counting their losses.
The damage is great, really. And if you ask me to quantify, I will say we have lost quite a lot.
The Kebbi State Emergency Management Agency has already taken on-the-spot assessment of these communities for necessary action while engaging those at the flood-prone areas for immediate relocation. Nura Tanko Wakili, NTA News.
Like many other states, the NIMET flood predictions put Lagos on the checklist, yes, and because more rainfall is pertinent this year. Therefore, experts are calling for a new approach to drainage and flood management in the state. John Adams has the report.
Ironically, when farmers are praying for consistent rainfall, those living in flood-prone areas are hoping for the opposite. Ezekiel Olayole was once a flood victim.
I remember the last rain that fell. It affected my house at Ramoni, Lawansi Road. And in fact, we had to pack all our things out.
As pathetic as Ezekiel's story sounds, his predicament and that of many in flood-prone areas of Lagos are inevitable because the state is a low-lying city surrounded by water. Aggravating the challenge is clogging of available drainage channels caused by indiscriminate disposal of waste by residents.
Our drainages are either not wide enough or not adequate enough to deal with the amount of water that happens in Lagos.
The release of water from the Oyon Dam in Ogun State and coastal flooding are dimensions to flooding that compound the Lagos situation.
Know the amount of volume of water you're expecting on the average in the particular months of the year and plan how to divert part of this water to possibly smaller dams, not for energy generation, but for at least water provision.
We need urban designers, we need architects, we need environmental management people, we need waste professionals, we need so many people to come together and say, look, how we solve this problem.
Many wetlands that would have helped in absorption of flood have been overtaken by development process and buildings to accommodate the growing Lagos population. Experts say urbaning, in addition to strategic flood prevention and management plan, are key in changing the negative flood narrative of families like that of Ezekiel and others in the mega city. In Lagos, John Adams, NTA News.
All right, thank you, Hingino. We're back to the studio once more where we still have Kayode Fabumi, of course, the Director of Research and Focus on National Emergency Management Agency. Now, what other agencies of government are you collaborating with in terms of enlightenment? The National Orientation Agency, for instance, there are other agencies that are perhaps closer to the people, especially in the local areas, where we have a majority of Nigerians reside, and of course where we have even more of the flood that we're talking about, and especially, of course, in the farmlands, where floods have actually washed so many farmlands and crops, like we had in Kebbi last week.
Yeah, disaster management is not a single agency's responsibility. So we are collaborating with so many of government MDAs. The National Orientation Agency, for instance, we have an MOU with them. We are collaborating with Ministry of Agriculture because, you see, when farmers and farmlands are affected, we need to do something. We need to ensure that their livelihood are given back to them. So Ministry of Agriculture will come to help. We are collaborating with Ministry of Health, because after there's flood, and people are affected, there can be secondary disasters, there can be, cholera because the waters are polluted, there can be mosquito bites, like the IDPs we saw in Kebbi, for instance, where they are camped, we are just going to, we are supplying drugs there to ensure that, a mosquito net to ensure that they don't have secondary disasters, and especially we're in the pandemic. So we are collaborating with every government agency, and we thank, NTA has done so much for us this year. You've called us in most of your programs.
Every year.
Yeah, every year. Every year, actually. You have given us so much attention, which is very good. Of course, we are humanitarians, and every of the opportunity we have, we advocate to people to move, those that are likely to be affected. And
now, are there steps individuals can take to protect their homes in areas that have a high or remote risk flooding? For instance, in Lokoja area, and of course, it's flood prone. Are there measures individual families, can take with respect to mitigating, the effect of flood? Or perhaps our government, is supposed to do that for everyone. I'm asking this question because there are persons or individual families who may prefer not to move, from their location, and may likely, will take on protection, by themselves to protect their property. Is there anything? Is there a possibility for that? And are there materials, that could be used by individual families to protect themselves? Are they available?
Thank you very much. The first step to reducing risk is taking individual responsibility. Everybody must take responsibility. So we have what we call flood tips here. There are steps individual can take. For instance, your house can be flooded. Move your document, your papers, your certificate, move them to a higher place. If there is flooding, do not go inside the flood water. You saw the person that died in Lugbe. Oh, he thought the water is not so, but it's not. It has not gotten so high. But the velocity, and again, he doesn't know the depth of the high current. The high current. So we have given a lot we can do. If you know your houses were affected last year or 2 years ago, move to your members of your family, your relative, move and find alternative. In fact, we must not leave this thing to the government. Not only that, as we live in estate, individual families should come together and clean their drains. All the wastages we pour there, we should not wait for government to help us clean the drainages. So these are responsibilities for individuals. Then what government can do is to, if it happens, we have a place where we can keep the people and ensure that they are safe. So we must not think that it is a government responsibility. There are things we can do to reduce our risk as individuals. We have given a lot of tips here. Don't drive in floods. If you can turn back. And if there's flood, move to the roof. In fact, if you can move to the top of the roof, move. And call a number. If you can call, we'll be rescued. It's better to do that than to be taken away by flood. We have had so many people that are taken away this year, and we don't want any of such again.
Thank you. We'll take another break now. When we come back, the conversation continues. Don't go.
We don't almost reach, Abby. Okay. Guys, the mechanic is almost here. What do you think is wrong?
Madam, no be smart way they worry this your bike. Carburetor and radiator, you don't pafuka. If you want to fix that, 50,000.
I guess I have no choice. Give me size 10 Allen Q.
Madam, the top don't spoil now. You need to buy new one. New one at 16,000.
Thanks for the help, guys. I'll be on my way now. For renting your tools.
Do what you've never done before. Find your first with these mega data plans. Dial *777#.
Son, being good at something requires strength. It requires putting in more. That's why the new improved Bonvita is packed with vitality and a richer, creamier taste.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for
justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
You're welcome back, and thank you for staying with us up till this moment. Now, what should be done, to ensure that when the floods arrive in a particular locality, that the impact will be minimal? For instance, if there's a heavy rainfall and people expect that, it could flood, what should be the first step to take?
The first step is to ensure that we listen to warning and the 9-minute alerts. I was, as I said, I was in Kebbi, and the flood, the rain was coming, and people were trying to pray that the rain will not fall again. It will fall. So people should take steps to ensure that they are in a safe place. That's the first thing. If you know your place is liable to be flooded, move away. If it's already flooding, ensure that you turn back. Don't go in. Whatever is in the house, when your life is safe, you can get the property back.
Okay, now release of water from dams, like Lado Dam, is another issue that has been raised. Another issue that has a lot to do with flooding in Nigeria. Now, we're just wondering if it is possible to reach an agreement with the countries, the Niger Basin Authority, on a coordinated release of excess water in the dam to enable us also to see how we can mitigate the flood down here in Nigeria if they eventually release the water. Is there any kind of a collaboration or kind of discussion that usually takes place between the authority and theirs to ensure that there's a coordinated release of water from their dams to enable us to take our own precautionary measures?
Thank you very much. We are planning what we call an after-action review this year. It's not only Lagdo Dam. I'll give you an example. Onyo Dam in Ogun State, it has about 270 million cubic liters of water. And as July, it was full to capacity. And then 5 million cubic of water was released in July. In August, about 10 million cubic liter was released. In September, 18 million cubic of water will be released. In October, 23 million. So this is just on your dam. The same thing with most of our dams. The problem we have is that these dams were built for multi-purpose. We call it a multi-purpose dam. For domestic use, for drinking water, for irrigation, for hydroelectricity. But many of them have not been used to capacity for irrigation. They are also not used for hydroelectricity. And so we continue to impound this water. What we are advocating is that this water should be released in dry season. If you don't want to do irrigation, release the water. Leave the dam and have enough capacity to impound water. For Lagdo Dam, there is cooperation between Cameroon and Nigeria. The Ministry of Water Resources has cooperation with them and MOU. So if they are going to release water, they will tell us. But they have not released this year. That's why we don't have that type of, we are not sure they have released this year, but they have cooperation. But most of our dams, they are already releasing water. Jeba dams, Kanji Dam, because when the water comes from other, they have to. So, but for Jeba and Kanji, we know they are being used to generate electricity, but others are not. So we hope that after action review, we can call in the dam managers and plan consistent and better use of our dams and water resources.
All right, thank you so much, Kayode Fabumi of NEMA, of course, the Director of Research and Focus National Emergency Management Agency. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening on Weekend File.
Thank you very much.
All right. Demolition of illegal structures at the National Stadium complex through Lagos continues as Minister of Sports promises a befitting edifice. Olumide Eguntola has this and more on Sports Update.